Board of County Commissioners now in session. We'll have Brother John Sinks come up and say the prayer, and we'll follow with the pledge.
Good morning, God. We give you thanks and praise for this beautiful day here in paradise. And make us ever mindful, Lord, to be good stewards of the resources and the blessings that you have given us. And now, Lord, bless our county commissioners as they consider the agenda and the business of the day, Lord. Give them perspective, give them vision, that they will always act in the best interest of these fantastic residents in Franklin County. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We have the minutes. Motion for the minutes.
Second.
Have a motion, second on the floor, all in favor? Have the county bills.
So moved.
Have a motion, second on the floor, all in favor? Howard Neighbors, Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioner. How y'all
Good morning.
doing? They got a couple items on the board, and we've been cleaning ditches and stuff throughout the county. And as of last week, we started cutting the grass. So all but 67, 630, the long road, they got all pretty flowered. We still wait till the end of May to cut that. So
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't mind you cutting maybe one flat.
just the top.
Yeah, just one of the back lane.
Okay.
Just do one, because it is getting pretty high out there. And so you can do that, appreciate it.
Yeah, the side road, we started cutting, a lot of complaints, people with snakes and different stuff. So we may got one path on each side.
If I had to think about it. Up here on the top of the hill, the alley, 21st and 2nd Street. See if you can fix that alley for me. The kid that got in the car wreck, Department of Corrections, we're gonna have to load work in there to get him in and out.
Okay.
So we need to fix that.
And that's right up here
Right
where
on
you
the
get
top
to
hill
see
between First
Tallahassee
Street and
Street.
Tallahassee Street.
Okay.
Just need to grade it down and put whatever you put in there, because they can't load him off and come out on the sidewalk and around, they have to come out the back side.
Okay, I'll look at it when I leave right here. I'll look and see what we need to do with it.
All right.
Right here, up here from the cemetery.
Right.
Yeah, 21st Street and 67.
Okay. Take care of it.
Anything? All right, thank you, Howard. Fonda Davis, Solid Waste.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Everything's running pretty smoothly. Solid waste, park rec, and animal control. Don't have anything for you this morning.
Got anything for Fonda?
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, a couple items in my report slides. Good morning, Fonda. Number 8, Mr. Allison Speed asked that I inform the board that the county's traveling boys basketball team was victorious at the Spring Bling basketball tournament recently held in Orlando. The boys team next tournament will be in Pensacola on the weekend of April 29th to May 1st. The girls team is traveling to Tallahassee this weekend to participate in Take Charge Breast Cancer Awareness Tournament. Mr. Speed will update the board on both of these tournaments sometime next month, in one of the meetings in May. And number 9, the county received a request from the Franklin County SWAT team to place "Thank you for not smoking" children's zone signs at the county park entrances. Mr. Fonda Davis stated that most of our county parks already have no smoking signs. Would the board object to additional signage? Attach a proof of the sign to your packet. We could ask the SWAT team to at least do one sign, since they're paying for the signs, and have them bring it to Fonda, let him look it over and make sure it complies, or it goes with the other signs he has at the park. There was also an additional request to put some at the courthouse, but we'll have to wait a while for that, because at the courthouse we got to be very, what's the word I'm looking for, specific as to how we design signs, because even to our 911 sign, it took us a while to get that done for the courthouse.
What would we do, attach them to the fence and
Aye.
the park?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a problem with that?
None whatsoever.
So
Need a motion?
yeah, I need a motion that you can put, like, again, contingent
I'll make a
upon
motion,
approving.
upon the county parks and rec, board we receive.
Second.
Have
Thank
a
you.
motion, a second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Ms. Pam Brownell, emergency manager.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I have an action item requesting the board approval of the ranking of the debris monitoring contracts, landfill strategies, Thompson's, and Terra Tech. That's how we rank those.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we take the emergency management director's recommendation.
Second. Have a motion, a second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Also have another action item that's not in my report. The last board meeting, I asked the board to approve the amendment of the RMCP contract for the extra $8,000. Now the state is requiring that the requests come from the board. We've sent them your minutes, and Michael typed a letter, but just in case that doesn't suffice them, I would like officially the board to request the extra $8,000 from the state for the RMCP grant.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion, second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. They have nothing. Eric Lovestrain?
Good morning. I don't have any action items for you in addition to my written report. Unless you have some questions for me.
Anybody have any questions for Eric? Thank you. Miss Ann Birchwell?
Good morning, Commissioners. Franklin County Public Library is notified that the help of the tax aid volunteers, Bill and Donald Nichols, they have surpassed the 50 e-file return minimum required by the IRS to maintain an active e-file site. That represents a 57% increase over last tax season. The IRS minimum had been 30 e-filing, and that had been increased to 50. Now, last season, AARP only completed 33 returns at both branches of the library, so there was concern whether or not we could meet the 50 minimum return this season. Thanks to Bill and Donna Nichols, we've done that, so that's very exciting news for us. Les Harrison from the McCullough Extension Agency will be facilitating a workshop, Growing Tomatoes and Herbs, at the East Point branch this afternoon at 1:30. He will also be speaking at the Carabel branch on Friday the 22nd about spring gardening. It's a spring free public program. Ms. Audrey will be inviting children ages 7 to 12 to the Carabel branch for a special Earth Day program. That's today at 4 o'clock. Children will be making a seed creation called Blossom Bombs made out of recycled paper and flower seeds. Fun and free event for children. On Saturday, May 14th, we will have author and green guide Dr. Maureen O'Neill. She'll be providing an outdoor activity for children at the East Point branch. Dr. O'Neill is an associate professor of early childhood development at Tallahassee Community College. Little green guides are told in respect for the child and will allow for hands-on exploration of the natural world. This will be at 11 o'clock until noon. Of course, it's always free. And finally, my E-rate is a reimbursement program offered to public schools and libraries that use internet and phone services. I have chosen to continue to use the current provider for our internet service this year and have requested that another provider offer a proposal to bring a lower cost to the East Point community for next year. This is an underserved rural community with fewer choices for internet services. Last year, the library received a little over $3,000 in reimbursement to be applied to our communication costs for both libraries. And this is my report.
Anybody have anything, Ms. Ann?
I have one item, I'm not sure, because as Lori pointed out to me yesterday, Commissioner Sanders already told me to go ahead and do the resolution proclaiming April as National Library Month. That resolution is completed. Do we need a motion to get the chairman's signature on it?
We've already approved.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty much what Lori told me. All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Just one question,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ann, real quick. Are you still giving, are they still giving piano lessons?
Oh, yes.
To
Over
the
at the Carabel
adults,
branch?
To the adult?
To adults, yes, they are.
To adult.
That's right.
What you want to do, play piano?
I don't know.
You wanna learn how to play? I'll have
No, it's a lot of,
Yeah.
the elderly people are really interested in it, but one woman's got long fingers, and I said, you'd be perfect to play it.
Have her call the library, and we'll see what gets up.
I'm glad, thank you, Miss Amy.
Mike Cooper, CO Wing Hospital report.
Morning, Commissioners. First, I would like to ask a question. Which meeting would you prefer me to be at, the first meeting or the second meeting of the month?
What's you do your report on first of the month, don't you? I mean, yeah.
I can. I mean, our board, the hospital board meets the last Thursday of the month, so I can do the first
What's
Tuesday.
best for you, the first or
The
the?
first is better for me.
Okay.
Okay? I'll just plan on that.
Okay.
Because it's kind of, the schedule's kind of got a little messed up. the
Well, where you
last-
can get your stuff up and done.
Okay. I did send you my report in advance, but I'll just go through those items, as some of them have even been updated since last week. Meaningful use, that is the money for our IT system that was left off of our cost report purposefully because the cost accountant did not believe it would be reimbursed. We have had several conversations with our IT attorney, and we're talking about a contract that is probably 20 pages long, and what this is all coming down to is exactly 2 sentences in the entire contract as to whether it'll be reimbursed or not reimbursed. As of yesterday, I had a phone conference with the IT attorney. He is optimistic that it will be reimbursed. I have another call today with him and Ralph Roberson to make sure that the accounting matches what is actually being put into the cost report. So he's optimistic. I'm a little more optimistic than I was the last time I discussed this with you all. However, it is the federal government, so I'm not all that optimistic. But I will continue to work on that until we get it through fruition. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
What sort of reimbursement will you receive?
the contract for the IT system was $480,000. That's what we had originally planned to put into that cost report. Now, we don't get $480,000. The way the reimbursement works, it's our Medicare payer mix, which is 38%, but due to the Meaningful Use program, they bumped that 20%. So we're talking about 58% of $480,000. However, the IT attorney, once he reviewed the contract again, identified another $60,000 that he believes is reimbursable. And then he said that possibly more could be. So we could be looking at some significant dollars. Well, we are looking at some significant dollars.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. And do you have any idea on the time for the government to respond?
Basically, the process is, I am hopeful by the end of this week, we will submit what they call it is you reopen your cost report. The cost report is like a tax file. And we reopen that cost report and we'll file these new expenses that we expect to be covered. Generally, the CMS will, in a normal cost report, we can get them to look at it in a couple weeks, and then it can be another week. As this is going to be a reopening as opposed to the normal cycle, it may take a little bit longer. But we do have a pretty good relationship with the Meaningful Use part of CMS that deals with this. So we could get an expedited review, and hopefully they will take that. I will tell you that anytime you reopen the cost report, first it goes through review, then they will pay or not pay. If they pay in a reopened cost report, there is going to be an audit by Medicare. They will come in, and that's why it's so crucial that every little detail is perfect, because The last thing we want to do is get reimbursed for all this, them come and audit us, and then say, well, that's on the wrong line, or this is out of place, and we're going to take all your money back. That's why the detail is very necessary. And again, we're talking about a 20-page contract, and I don't know if you'll recall, but our IT attorneys went over that contract. It took a long time to get them to approve to all the items, and it's coming down to 2 sentences in that entire contract of whether this is reimbursable or not. So we are working on it very hard. As a matter of fact, as soon as I leave here, I'm going back to get back on the phone with him. So. Did want to mention that yesterday at the hospital, Adams Group, Culpeper, and Trope JB did meet. They spent probably 3 hours. And basically what that meeting was is, normally I would sit in on those, but they were talking over my head as far as building issues. It was about the engineering. And basically they were answering the detailed questions so that Culpeper has as much information as needed. Culpeper is going to take the next 2 weeks, and they will come back with a budget. And that will be our first glance at, hey, we're in the ballpark with what our budget is, $10.2 million, or we're not in the ballpark. We'll have that first indication in about two weeks. As I mentioned in my report, we have seen a pretty large increase in EMS visit or runs. So much so that we had a couple of occasions where we had more calls than we had trucks. And to try to alleviate some of that, effective 4/1, I did move the 3rd truck, which is the part-time truck in Appalachia. I did move it to a full-time status. So we have 3 full-time trucks on the road now. I also elevated it to a paramedic level as opposed to an EMT level. Obviously that is coming at some expense to the hospital. And I will continue to do it to try to alleviate as much of the increase in volume as I can, but I suspect that I won't be able to do that forever without additional funding for it. I will tell you that also by moving that to a full-time truck, what it has allowed us to do is, because it gives us that extra volume, we have been able to secure several times we've been able to secure convalescent runs. And convalescent run would be one to or from a nursing home or something like that. And as opposed to where we're having an ambulance coming back, what they call deadhead, no person in the back of an ambulance. If they've transferred to Tallahassee or Panama City, I mean, that's a 4-hour out of service. When they go beyond that county line, that ambulance is out of service for over 4 hours. So if we can get a convalescent run coming back to drop off at St. James or to the nursing home in St. Joe, I mean, that's just additional revenue. By having that additional flexibility, and again, with Jared, he's made those contacts and really worked the system to get people to call us if they have those convalescent runs as well. So we have picked up several of those, so our revenue should be looking pretty good from that. The LIP funding. The good news is that the state did approve a significant increase in LIP funding. Bad news is the federal government has to approve our state's LIP program as far as how they disperse those monies, because it is a matching program. The state puts up X amount of dollars, and then the feds match that, okay? I am not optimistic, again, that the federal government will approve Florida's plan. And this is why. What was it, 2 years ago, the feds informed the state that they did not like the state's mechanism to disperse funds. The state didn't do anything to change the way they dispersed funds. I don't know if you'll recall, but our governor went to Washington about this time last year and had some acrimonious discussions with CMS at that time. Secondly, the state's failure to expand Medicaid also plays into this. And then finally, I think it was the Attorney General's office at the federal level, put out a report about 2 weeks ago noting that the state of Florida's LIP program is a perfect example of how not to distribute LIP funds. So again, the good news is, I mean, we're talking about for our hospital, for our little hospital, we're talking about a $600,000 annual increase in what we get from LIP funding. That's what is on the table. And if that doesn't go through, that could be very detrimental.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Sorry. The LIP funding is for uncompensated care, right?
Low income pool, yes.
Okay. And we have a lot of allies with the other hospitals in the state that count on that money.
Well, particularly, I think it's Shands in Jacksonville, and there's one in Miami, huge hospitals. That's where we're talking really big hospitals, and they'll basically go out of business. I mean, they'll shut their doors. So that is, as much as we count on it, I mean, that is their total business.
Well, the good news is that the legislature increased that significantly,
Yeah.
and now we have to deal with the federal government.
I think the Miami hospital was supposed to be reimbursed like $32 million through this low income.
Yeah.
And if I recall, you're exactly right, they tied this to the Medicare expansion, just as they tied federal highway funds to your speed limit. If you comply, we give you, if you don't comply, then you're not gonna get the money. So
Right.
basically, to me, that's where the ball stops, is with the Medicare expansion that the governor proposed, that didn't comply with what Obama wanted, so now we're being held over.
I don't know that, as much as I think it might be a battle, I don't think that the feds want to be responsible for closing those two hospitals in Jacksonville.
Like a game of chicken.
Because those are the indigent hospitals.
That's what I was gonna say, all this ties back to indigent care,
Yeah.
is what the low income pool is all about, to try to help offset some of those costs.
There'll be a lot of saber rattling, and I guess like you said, it's a game of chicken. Who's going to win? But for us, it is significant. We're talking about an increase of $600,000 for this hospital, $50,000 a month. What else? I did want to mention some things about that we're doing. We're looking at several programs right now, and actually have moved forward on a couple of them. One is for the hospital's laboratory to become a reference lab for a company out of Chicago that owns several hospitals and outpatient clinics throughout the eastern part of the United States. And what they have proposed to do for us is allow our lab, and basically they're banking on our license, because they're going to come in and put in an additional piece of equipment that we don't pay for. And then every night we will get a FedEx package with no less than 150 samples that we run through that machine. Right now, our initial is that we won't have to increase any staffing cost associated with that. So we're getting an additional 150 lab tests a day. And the increase in revenue for us is anywhere, they're saying $40,000 a month. When they say that, I count on 20. So we're talking about significant money anyway. So that's one program we're looking at. Another program is we're still looking at that rural health center designation, and that is in CMS's court right now. We have completed everything we need to do. Their next step is to schedule a site visit. So as soon as we can get that done, and that is another $150,000 increase in reimbursement every year. So as far as the financials for the hospital, we did show a $35,000 positive bottom line for February. Year to date, it's still at 25,000 to the negative. And this has been a very, very strange year. And I think I mentioned that to you guys by an email earlier in the year. If you look at our income statements month to month, whereas a normal business, those income statements are a snapshot of the business of the month, okay? For us, it's a little different because our income statements are largely an estimate. Because if you look through our income statements, you have revenue, that's gross revenue, and then there's a big section called deductions from revenue. Well, those deductions are not actually cash transactions, they are estimates that we employ so that we don't overstate our revenue. Because as you all well know, for every dollar we charge, we get compensated 48 cents. Now it changes based on who the payer is. It can go from 80 cents down to 0. And so that's what those 4 or 5 lines are, is how much we expect to get out of that gross revenue. And so it becomes really dependent on who is the payer that month onto what that bottom line is. Not how much work we're doing at the hospital, but what that bottom line is. And what we have seen this year is wide variations in who those people are coming through the doors. I mean, in November, we had 1 out of 2 people that didn't have any insurance. Didn't have Medicaid, didn't have Medicare, or commercial. That's not good for our payment schedule. On the other hand, in February, we had 1 out of 2 people coming through the door that had Medicare, which is extremely good for us. And then again, I think in March, we're also going to see 1 out of 2, or close to 1 out of 2, were in the Medicare. And, so that's why you've seen these wide ranges of what those income statements are. It's all based off of what that payer mix was for the month. If these wide sways happen later in the year, you don't see that volatility in the income statement. You only see it when you only have 1 month in the year and you had a really bad payer mix. Then it's all there. So it's been really kind of, I know it's probably not the right word, but for somebody that just does healthcare for all his life, it's been very interesting to watch the dynamics of how these last 4 or 5 months have gone on the income statement. So,
Question, Mr. Chairman. Sorry. Is there a correlation between the winter residents and more Medicare, or have you been able to determine?
it really hasn't correlated to past years at all. And from what I've been able to determine, I mean, you would expect when the winter residents are here that you would have a higher amount of Medicare, but I can't find any correlation. It's just been really, really strange. But it will work its way out. As far as where we're at with the computer conversion, which also affects how much cash we're able to collect, I would say we're about 4 weeks out from being back to normal. We are currently holding our own, but as the conversion took place on January 19th, it usually takes about 4 months for them to have enough AR in the system that they can bring in enough cash. You know, we're holding our own right now, but it's certainly not, it's not perfect, and we're still working out kinks. I mean, I just got a notice this morning while I was sitting in the back that there's a hold on $100,000 of outpatient claims because there's a glitch in the system, which wasn't there a month ago. So we just have to work through those things. That's about $50,000 in cash that's not moving. So we're finding those glitches and taking them one by one. It is getting better, but it's just the nature of the beast when you go through a change that significant. And I don't have anything else, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I do. Not a question, I just want to make a statement. Mr. Graham, where is he at today?
He is actually working on that meaningful use stuff. He will be here at our next meeting.
Okay, you said Culpeper's going to probably present you something within the next 2 weeks, as far as the talk, whether it's in budget, out of budget, under budget, or whatever. Okay, I'm going to save the majority of my questions for the next meeting because there's a lot of financial questions that I've got to ask. But the one thing I want to look at is get down here on your the balance sheet, Mr. Cooper, and cash on hand ending February of this year is 7.7 days. This time last year it was 12.2. And then on your accounts receivable day, 83.4 for February, and then February, and then it was 46.9 last year at this time. It's
And-
what, by the numbers I'm going by.
Right.
Anything, anything between 45, 47, that's pretty good, your accounts receivable.
Yeah.
Why are we having 83.4 days in
If-
accounts receivable?
If you'll recall, it was 46 in February. By April of last year, it was 100. And that is when we started the conversion, getting out of CSS as billing and all of that good stuff. We got it down again in August. I think we were down into the 60s in August, and that's when the first conversion of the computer system happened. Anytime you go through a computer system change, what it does is slow down your billing because the conversion always comes fraught with these issues like I just explained. And if you're not collecting that money as quickly as you were, then your days in accounts receivable go up. That's what's happened, and that is why the cash has been short. I mean, if you look at that difference between, let's say 50 days and 83 days, 33 days, and each day is probably worth, I'm going to say, about $50,000. So that's where your cash issues have come from. It all goes back to these conversions that we've had to make. And remember, we're on our third billing company and our third computer conversion in a year. And they were all necessary, but they are painful.
Well, when do you see this being rectified?
I would say that the cash coming in should be good by, like I said, in about 4 weeks. I think there'll be enough in the new system that they will be generating enough cash. The key is to what we can do in the old system. We still have, I think, about $300,000, if I'm not mistaken, in the old system. The quality of that, I'm not exactly sure because of, they've worked that money I'm just not sure how much of it is in self-pay category and how much of it is in the other categories. And that'll determine how much that $300,000 is actually worth. But we are working on that as well. And we're actually last week, we moved that $300,000 or thereabouts from the old billing company Accordius, and we went ahead and put it into the new folks, Athena. So we've just got one contact now, one person working our accounts. So I hope that answers your question.